Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another breakfast with Blaha, and today I'm having steak, rice, broccoli, Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm going to be changing this to chicken soon, but I've got a bunch of steak I still got to get through in the freezer. But once I'm through it, I want to switch to chicken for a while. Alright, I'll switch to chicken for a while. You'll say why? Mainly because I just get sick of spending $100 every week on steak. To the point where I go, be more cost effective. Just do chicken most of the time. I do like my steak. There's nothing magical about steak, guys. We like to pretend there is. There's not. It's got some extra creatine and B12. I can get that from other foods. Hell, we supplement creatine anyways. All right. But let's talk about training maxes. I've had someone ask me, what do you mean by a training max? How do I find a training max? How do I determine a training max? And that's a great question. I'm a coach who has clients go to a training max so that I can use it for programming. So what is a training max? In an ideal world, a training max means a heavy single that is less than your true 1 rep max. Like a true 1 rep max means you grind, you push. It's everything that you have for 1 rep. It's also what we think of as a competition max. All right? At a powerlifting meet, at a weightlifting event, at a strength lifting meet, anything like that, you're going to try to push a true 1 rep max most of the time for your last attempt. All right? You want the best lift you can possibly get. That's a 1 rep max. 100%. Training max is in the 90 to 95% range. We use that for programming purposes because for the most part, you shouldn't need all out 1 rep maxes in your training. In other words, unless you're practicing learning to grind and strain, you don't need it. You don't get stronger any faster than working at 90%. And this is what the data says. Just like we talk about training to failure, there are 0 training benefits to training to failure. There are negative recovery effects, but it doesn't give you any more muscle than stopping 1 or 2 reps short. Again, taking it to 90% of failure. This produces the same hypertrophy even in advanced lifters in most studies. Okay. It's where you want to be. So training max is actually in the same concept. But it gives us consistent numbers to program off of, and then you try to increase training maxes over time, no matter which system you're using. So how do we find it? Some of it's simple. You got a true max already? I say, yeah. Did powerlifting me? Yeah, I tested my max deadlift. It took me 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds to lock it out. Well, that's an all-out true max. 90% of that, there you go. 90% of your true max. You now have a training max. Perfect. Well, what if you don't have that, a recent one, and you need to ramp up? You ramp up and do one. How do we determine that? If you want to go by personal feel, you can use that, or you can use bar speeds on the camera. As a coach, what do you think I use for my clients? I look at how fast they moved it. A true max for most lifts can take about 3.5 seconds. The deadlift can take longer, but very, very, very rarely are you going to hit 4 seconds or more on a squat or a bench press. Very few people can grind that long. And usually if they do, there's up and down of the bar and stuff, so it's a missed lift. Like it wouldn't count at a powerlifting meet anyways. People can get that. Grinding out a max where the bar dips at any point, even 1 inch, once it starts going up, is disqualified. So it's not a max anymore. You can't lift it. But a max is going to be around that 3.5 second mark for everything that you have. Now, there are world records that are faster, but that meant that maybe that person could have moved slightly more weight, even though they have a world record. I look for it to be about 2 seconds. To me, a weight that you can tell that was heavy for them, you could tell they strained a little bit, but it took them 2 seconds. And you can time that with video stuff. That's a training max. If I saw them grind a little, the bar stuck in one spot, and then they moved it, I know that's not a training max. We take a couple percents off of it. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it, you're not filming, or you should, but you should be filming, by the way. You all have a smartphone. Every one of you have a smartphone. I know there's going to be a guy who chimes in, I don't. Yeah, no one asked you. I'm sorry you've got some religion that doesn't allow you to have a smartphone. What are you doing watching YouTube anyways? Right? You have an anti-technology belief system. You shouldn't be watching YouTube. Why are you watching my videos? Get off here. You don't have a smartphone. Film yourself. No excuses. Now, that being said, on a training max, when you go to hit a training max, define your training max. Like, let's say you keep adding weight. I don't care what the lift is of a front squat. Right? It doesn't have to be a big three. You get up to 275. Feel fairly heavy. I can keep going. I could do at least 3 reps with that. Get up to 295, right? Whatever, 300. You go for it and you're like, that was heavy, but I could have got a second rep. When you get to a weight to where when you lock it in your head, you say, if I gave everything I had, I could have gone for a second rep. That was my 2 rep max. I know for a fact, not maybe, but I know that had I gone for a second rep with that 300 and been willing to dig deep and grind it, I could have got a second rep. Okay? But you know that. You don't think, you're like, well, maybe I could. Well, if you maybe could have got a second rep, then no. Did you get it and go, it would have been really hard? I'd have to dig in deep. I'd have to strain. I could have got a second rep. That's a training max. That's in that percentage range. We're right in that low 90s%. Now, people say, well, 92, I could get 3 reps. No, you can't. No, you can't. You might think you can, but it's not 92% of your max then. Nobody does that. Not how it works. And the joys of Houston at 2 in the morning and people are out there making noise. It's a weekend. So guys, for those who are unaware, this is what I mean by a training max. That's good timing because I'm not going to be able to keep filming with them. People coming home from the club. So we now know what a training max is. You guys have a good idea. I've given you some rules to figure it out. So I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.